to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let the record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda, AP warrant number 11, 9/23/19, number 12, 9/23/19, number 13, 9/23/19, payroll register number 39, 9/26/19, and number 40, 10/3/19.
Move to accept. Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the warrant and payroll registers as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple other items on the consent agenda that weren't on the original agenda. One, we received a pole placement permit from CMP on Friday, and this has to do with the project on River Road. Road Commissioner can probably explain a little bit more about it, but this is a permit to move 7 poles that have to do with the road being moved over by Lloyd's Pit.
Any more explanation?
No, they just need to be set over, and the reason there's 7 poles, there's only 4 now that are marked to be moved, but the second phase of that project, from where we're going to be leaving off, headed north, includes 3 more poles. So to make the alignment right with the 4 that they're going to be doing, to finish those 2 or 3, we'll make it a straighter line. So he just wanted to do it all at once. Get permission for 7. That way that'll be already in the computer, so that it already generated a job number.
All right.
Yes. I make a motion we approve the pole placement permit.
I have a motion and a second to approve the pole placement permit for CMP on the River Road. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
I just have one other item to bring to your attention under the consent agenda. I believe everyone's had a chance to look at this map that's on the table regarding Nathan Street. I sent out an email earlier today. Just a couple of things on that. The bottom line is there is a parcel that the town owns that is in the floodplain on Nathan Street that we removed some dangerous buildings off of back in 2017. A new owner of the property at 98 Madison Avenue and the property behind that abuts up to the town's property has offered to buy that property from the town. That property and the one next to it, which is owned by the Beckwiths, the Beckwiths have agreed to sell their portion for $500. The fellow from 98 Madison Avenue has made the same offer to the town to purchase it for $500, and I told him I would run it by the board tonight and bring him an answer tomorrow.
Moody.
How much land are we talking about, Jim?
If you take a look at that map there, Mr. Bouchard should send
Is
it
it a
down.
lot, 2 lots, an acre?
Oh, it's not even an
Not
acre.
even-
Not even an acre.
Flood zone. Okay, that's all you need.
It's a small lot in the flood zone which
Yeah.
can't be developed.
Okay.
So, but the reason this gentleman wants it is his property backs up to it, and this allows him to kind of control any type of access off of Nathan Street to it.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to sell the property.
I make a motion we sell the property to, what's the gentleman's name?
Koch, Mr. Koch.
Mr. Koch for $500?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to sell the property on Nathan Street to Mr. Koch for $500. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, letter D, acceptance of the meeting minutes from September 23rd, 2019.
Move to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes from September 23rd, 2019. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Old business, Mr. Moody?
None for me, sir.
Mr. Elias?
None.
Mr. Savage? Mr. Duchamp? Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager?
Couple things to pass along to you. Road Commissioner wanted me to make mention of the fact that there's going to be a sealed bid sale of some equipment that the town has that's ready to part with, and I didn't know if you wanted to add any information to that.
No, it's just the old 95 L8000 truck that we replaced this past summer with the dump body on it. A small utility trailer that was built back in the early 80s. Stuff is up to the garage if anybody's interested in looking at it. And the bids will be open on the 17th of October to the highest bidder.
I just have a question. How did we advertise that? We posted it at town office?
It's posted at the town office. This meeting here is also public, and there was a few contractors around town that were interested, so we drew up some bid forms and with some pictures on there and sent them out today.
Right. I just want to make sure as many people as have had the opportunity to know that it's out there, not just kind of within this group.
Jody? When that stuff is sold, where does the money go? In his budget?
That was gonna be my question.
Goes where?
I don't know, I was gonna, that was.
She knows where it goes.
I know where it goes.
Big black hole?
No, it goes into their equipment line for future
Oh, okay.
purposes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest anyway.
Yeah, we've been doing that for 2 years now. Any extra money that we get from sales or scrap iron, the garage stands created an account so that if we need some small things, matter of fact, we just bought a utility trailer to replace the one we got out of that account, so it wouldn't come out of the budget line.
Thank you. Mike Corson's here from the Water District. They have been the recipients of a pretty significant grant and loan to do some work. I believe it runs from Fayette Pond to the treatment plant. Does that sound right?
From Hancock Pond.
Hancock Pond.
Yep.
Got my wrong pond.
Wrong pond.
One with all the water.
So, this was a preliminary study that Dirigo Engineering did for us last year, and kind of summarizes the condition of the pipe and the reasoning for us looking to replace that pipe. It's 8,200 feet of pipe, and it runs through pretty much wooded and wetland area. The issue with it is that it's pretty much inaccessible as far as our means would be concerned. If we were to ever have an issue with this pipe, breaking or otherwise, we're looking at quite a long extensive time before we could actually access our way in there to do repairs on this thing, let alone in the wet area where, since beaver activity and stuff has taken over the area, a lot of that has become flooded area, so it's really technically inaccessible for us to actually repair in place. So with this study, we've went to USDA Rural Development and applied for a grant loan from them for a total project cost of $3,500,000, and we've gotten a response back for a $1.5 million in grant and $2 million in loan at, I want to say 24%. Yeah, 24%, 0.24%.
There you go.
Okay.
That does not sound right.
Yeah.
Let me go get a loan, I'll let it go.
0.24. So currently, right now, we're at the stage where we're having Dirigo do the final design plans for this. We would like to put this out to bid during this winter season and have be ready in place to start construction as soon as the spring time weather allows us to. So then our plan would be to finish that by the fall, at least up to 80–90% of it, other than cleanup and stuff that we've discussed with the landowner that we would stop during the months of November and during hunting season. The landowner up there rents a few camps out for hunting purposes, so we've agreed to stop construction early in lieu of that, so that it doesn't disrupt his, rental and hunting business that he's trying to stake up there. So with that, we're looking at probably a rate increase to take effect of January of 2021. And right now, when do not have an idea of what that would be, but I'm guessing around the 10% mark to cover, just to cover the payment on this loan, basically. But we'll be able to run more numbers on that as we get closer to it. I've met with Anson and Emden town officials already and gave them the same information a few months ago. But now we've got a little bit more as far as our funding options and stuff goes, so want to just bring that to the town's awareness of what we're investing in and the infrastructure that we have up there in the wooded area. That front page shows what used to be the wooden water main, which is basically a barrel type style with bands around it. And the wood is rotted away, but there in place still remains the steel bands that were holding that pipe together. And a few other choice pictures up in there of some things we found in the woods. But anyway, like I said, just wanted to bring the town up to date on, you know, what our construction plans were and kind of a heads up on where we're going with our rates and what we're doing with that money.
Mike, is it the technology that you plan to have where you actually go in with like a balloon into the pipe and then it sleeves behind it?
Yeah, we're not using that technology, but in similar fashion, and I'm glad you brought that up. We had three options that we have addressed in here for three possibilities to replace this main, and two of those involve going outside of the area where the current main is, and to get out of the wetland area, which would be more of a open excavation style installation of the pipe. Both of those options require on moving the transmission main uphill, which then defeats what we've got going for us right now as a gravity feed, so we don't have to pump our water from the source, you know, to any point down here. But doing that would cause us to have to put a pump at the intake at Hancock Pond, at the dam up there, and currently there's no utilities up there, so we're looking at backup power plus three-phase power to bring in a lot of maintenance and other headaches to go along with having that up there to make, and you know, redundancy to make sure that we can always pump supplied water into the treatment plant. So the technique that we're looking at is pipe bursting, and what they basically do is pulling a cone or wedge-shaped piece of steel with a cable through the pipe and bursting it outwards, and then behind that coming in with it can go up to two sizes larger in diameter with that technique. But we're going to replace the cast iron pipe that's currently up there with high-density polyethylene pipe, and that is able to be butt fused together with a heating technique. So technically you have no joints or connections throughout this run, unless there'll probably be some high spots where we'll need air relief type things, but as far as couplings and connections, these are all fused welded together. That polyethylene pipe is more flexible, so as frost and other issues might come around up there, it's flexible in moving. It can withstand freezing 3 to 4 times before actually having any structural problems with it, which we feel is a good choice for that area up there where I think the plastic will outlast the metal and the iron, and being, you know, more flexible to the conditions of the elements out there than being buried deep in the ground. This pipe is, and at some points, just a foot or so below the surface, or just have some leaves over the top in some areas. So it's not put very deep due to ledge conditions up there. So, but we did get permission from Army Corps of Engineers and permitting to replace the pipe in place using this technique. And they can go about every 200 feet, I believe it is, with their pull sections, so that kind of minimizes versus open trenching the whole installation of it. So we're going to be installing an access road along our easement that we have down through there, and doing these pull sections as we come through. And then after that's done, they've got to take all the gravel and what else they put in there, which hopefully they use matting more than anything than gravel, but they have to restore the land back to its original condition once they're done. But this will relieve a good headache off of our shoulders, because that, like I said, is an area that we already know that we can't get to, and it would be days, before we would be able to access any of this area up through there as far as tree removal and getting equipment in to do a repair. So this will definitely, help guarantee the future of the system.
Is this the last big project that you've got on your list?
No. The remainder of the transmission main is on our horizon, because this entire pipe was installed at the same time, pretty much within a year or two of itself. And so it's become, aged and deteriorated at the same rate throughout. The next section that we'd be looking at would be from up above Snowshoe Village, in the resorts area, or from the treatment plant, headed south towards North Anson to Pinkham's Market on Elm Street. There's a short section right there that we've got to replace as far as the transmission main part goes. But at this time, we're not looking to do that in any of the near future. It's just be our next planned project, but we're planning to take a break, for 10 years or so on projects like that. And with that portion of the Indian Pond Road, even though it's aged, it's more accessible if we do have an issue on there, that we can dig it and fix it. This first section that we did down here on the River Road, we had areas where the state had built the road up in excess of 15 feet, which put us over 20 feet deep at some points with our transmission main, which again makes it pretty much inaccessible without excavating the entire road out to get down to there. So with this area taken care of, and then this section up here in the woods, the rest of it, like I said, remains fairly accessible for us as far as repairs go. So we feel that we can, hang it out there for another 10 years or so before, looking to take on another project. Hopefully we'll, be able to get some other stuff paid off and keep our debt down.
Did you say what the time frame was for this job?
Yeah, we want to start it in the spring of next year, and hopefully they'll be finished by the fall. But if not, there'll be just a tail end of it to carry over into 2021 to finish up in the spring, like clean up, most likely, I would imagine, and things of that nature. But depending on their time frame and when we agree to stop construction for the landowners' purposes of commercial hunting and stuff there, then it might bump us over into the next construction season.
What's the current debt that the water district has?
I did not bring that figure with me. It's, I'm gonna say around 15 million. And I can definitely get more answers to that to you later.
Mike, did you say that you are going to put in a pump station?
No, because the Army Corps of Engineers and the DEP permitted us to replace the pipe in place, and we don't have to do that. So we'll be able to still maintain our gravity feed situation that we have, so we won't have to pump from the pond down to the treatment plant.
So this right here, this one here, you're gonna stay on the red line?
Yeah.
I thought you were concerned with, with bog or whatever it is.
Yep.
Does that take you through the wetlands? It's near the back, Mike, right?
Yeah, it does take us through the wet area. So they've got means in place to deal with that section, and they're gonna try to do the longest pull that they can through there, so there's fewer dig sites where they have to dig down and pull through. But once the pipe is in place, it'll be a sealed unit, and we shouldn't have to go back there for any kind of a maintenance.
So no pumps, no generators, no...
No, just as it is now, which is, it flows by gravity once you get the air out of the thing,
Right.
but it'll flow from gravity from there down to the
Okay.
plant, but, yeah, and we pushed pretty hard for that and advocated that, how much of a burden it would be for the district and ratepayers to have to put in a pumping station up there and, maintenance on that type of thing, so that was a lot of the reasoning that they allowed us to do it in place, whereas there would be no way they would ever put it there if it wasn't already existing.
Just to bring in three-phase power would be thousands.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Very much. And, I will say that a couple months ago, I had a chance to go up and take a tour of the treatment plant up in Emden, and Mike puts on a good show. And it's very informative about all the stuff that goes in there that you never think about when you're dealing with how to get your water.
Yeah, what it takes to turn the faucet.
Right, thank you. A couple more items of communication. One in your packet, I sent an email from our attorney Dave Silk that kind of outlines the timeline for Madison Paper's appeal in Somerset County Court. So Wednesday, this coming Wednesday is the deadline for them to file a petitioner's brief, that's Madison Paper. Assuming they do that, the town has about 30 days to respond, and then the court will probably schedule a time for arguments to be heard, most likely December, January. Dave Silk says this process will run a lot faster than the State Board of Review, so just keep that in mind. I'll let the board know what happens on Wednesday, assuming MPI is going to put a petitioner's brief in. Other item in your packet, the Maine Revenue has set the town's valuation for 2020 at $342 million. Previous valuation was $333 million, so we're up about $9 million. I think that takes into consideration the valuation captured in the solar fields and so forth. This is the number that the state uses to set revenue sharing and to set state aid to education, so that's why it's important to keep track of this number. And finally, just want to let the board know that town office is closed this coming Monday, and the next meeting is scheduled for Monday the 21st. Mr. Vinziano has asked to maybe bump it back a little bit so he can be here for the select board meeting, but there's also an assessors meeting that night, so the way I propose scheduling it is a 6 o'clock start for the assessors and a 7 o'clock start for the select board on the 21st, and I'll send that information out to you. Well, that's it.
All right, new business. Number one, discuss dissolving USDA RBEG revolving loan fund.
Okay. So at the last meeting, the board gave me direction to start the process, and so I drafted a letter. You have a copy of it in your packet. I have the original here. And this letter goes to Brian Wilson, the program director at USDA. And simply, it says that the board is formally requesting the dissolution of this fund. And so this is step number one. I sent a copy to Brian Wilson. He said the letter's fine as is, and this would be the starting process. So if it's still the will of the board, I guess now would be the time to have a motion to discuss sending this letter requesting that the fund be dissolved.
All right, looking for a motion if we have one.
So,
Second. All right, I have a motion and a second to send the letter to the USDA Rural Development for the dissolution of RBEG revolving loan fund. Started with matching funds from USDA in July of 2009. Any other questions? Mr. Elias?
so how is this going to affect, I know I've got this letter from you here, but I mean, how is this going to affect Mr. Agopian's money?
We'll get to that. Unless that, you can't vote on this until you know that answer. I was gonna kind of go through the process. It seemed that at the last meeting, the board, this was the consensus, the board wanted to move forward with this letter. So if you want me to answer that now, it'll kind of come back around to.
Well, if we get rid of this, where's the money coming from?
I'm going to tell you that there is no money for any loans. and I'm gonna explain that. If you'd like me to explain it now, I can.
Well, I think I'd like to hear it first.
Okay. So, we send this letter, assuming the letter is signed and approved by the board, we send this letter to USDA. Kathy has already calculated the balances of interest. We confirmed the write-off amount from a bad loan to River's Edge. And they've determined that they would need that $42,384. So what you don't have in your packet is a detailed ledger, a general ledger report that Kathy and Tammy provided for me today. Right now, the town has in its revolving loan fund, which is mixed funds from USDA and TIF, $81,375. We pay back $42,385. That leaves us about $38,000. That $38,000 has been committed to two places because the board made a motion to move interest money to the matching grant program to the tune of about $10,000 or $11,000. So that leaves you about $28,000 left in the revolving loan account. The town in June approved the loan to GoLab with $100,000 committed from the town. So that $28,000 that's left, in my opinion, has already been committed to GoLab, and now our job is to find the other $72,000, $73,000 that we'll need to commit to GoLab over the next couple of months. So as I've said in emails, this is my mistake. If I had known that these USDA funds had so many strings attached to them and that we couldn't really use them to pay these GoLab funds, then after GoLab we had made the agreement to give them that loan, I would have made the recommendation that we close the revolving loan program for the rest of the fiscal year, because we just don't have enough funds to allocate to it. And I apologize to Mr. Hagopian because, again, going back 2 months now when he first asked me about it, I should have said, I don't think we have the funds. But I didn't know that we would have to pay back USDA $42,000, and I didn't know that we would not have the funds to pay GoLab. I thought we would have enough to just move what was in that revolving loan account to commit to GoLab. I honestly didn't anticipate somebody coming asking for a loan, and that's my fault, that's my mistake.
So how much money is in our TIF account?
You have a cash balance in your TIF account of probably about, it should be on the back side, of that one.
98.
It's about 98, just under $100,000.
And we need to keep about 73 for GoLab.
Well,
Can we use that for GoLab?
all your
Yeah, and
TIF funds that are going to come in during this fiscal year have already been allocated. Some of it goes to offset your taxes, some of it goes to river road projects, some of it goes to buy sand or buy salt and calcium, some of it goes to pay for fireworks during Madison Anson days. That budget has all been allocated, and that's anticipating the funds coming in for this fiscal year, so they've all been allocated.
What's gonna happen when the TIF money disappears?
Well,
Where's all that money gonna come from?
keep in mind, the TIF money is 30% of Backyard Farms taxes. So when the TIF goes away, so does their tax break. And they start paying 100% taxes. So that, I'm not too concerned about the revenue, because the revenue will come in the form of the taxes that we'll be able to keep 100% of.
On a depreciated building, and we pay more to the county, and the state kicks back less.
Yes, but those are things that
Those will go onto our assessment.
that's true, but I do not believe it will be to the degree where we would lose a substantial amount of money. So if the board still wants to dissolve the fund, we have to send this letter. But I believe after looking at everything, talking with both Kathy and Tammy, and talking with USDA, that I don't believe the town is in a position to make any loans until next fiscal year.
So, okay, if the town's gonna be in a fiscal position next year for loans, where's that money coming from?
Well,
You talking about after town meeting?
after town meeting, because traditionally, there is a certain amount of money from TIF that is allocated to certain articles in town meeting. It's right there, right in the warrant. When this board does the budget, the board will discuss how much of that TIF money they want to put in there. I've been recommending, if you've noticed, we've used less and less every year. And so, because I don't want to become, it seems foolish to use more and more.
I understand what you're talking about.
So, I'm gonna probably look at recommending dialing that down before the budget. And after town meeting, you'll have a opportunity to pass an economic development budget, and that will look different. River Road will be almost done, so like the last 2 years, we've committed almost $150,000 to River Road projects. And so the board could just decide to finish River Road with a combination of TIF and money we raise from taxation, or change the priorities in the economic development account. And one of the priorities could be that we reestablish or refund the revolving loan account. If you remember, over about a 2 or 3 year period, this board was not comfortable funding the matching grant program. So the matching grant program went on a hiatus for about 2 years. And then at this last budget cycle, the matching grant funds came back at a level of about $25,000. So I kind of look at the revolving loan as that same type of process where it goes on hiatus for a while until we're able to reestablish some funds. Because we felt that, the town felt it was important to partner with these folks that were gonna redevelop the mill, and we put a lot of energy toward that.
Regardless, if we do nothing with USDA, we're still probably gonna have to pay some penalties and stuff, aren't we?
Not necessarily penalties, but we will have to take the figures that Kathy put together and take that out and put it into a separate account. So we'd have to take about $50,000 out of this account and put it in a separate account, and that just belongs to USDA.
And when that final loan that's currently outstanding,
Right.
using that USDA money is paid off, then that $50,000 gotta go back to USDA.
Right. It doesn't have to, the town can continue using it if that's what the town wants to do. But know that those loans have different stipulations on them.
And so we're better off to clean it up once and for all for 42-3 or whatever it is.
Right.
And then when we reestablish our own revolving loan, we can determine
You determine the rules.
what the rules are gonna be.
Right.
That makes a whole lot more sense to me.
So, what you said here, that Rhonda's money, we're gonna keep 100%?
Right, if we pay back $42,000 to USDA, that, they assume that the outstanding loan payments from Emerson will just be collected by the town. We don't have to split it with USDA. This way, we're done clean and we're out. And so that money could come back in.
You know, I guess I'm in favor of getting rid of this. I'm just sorry that Bob got stuck in the middle.
And I am too.
Any other questions? Mr. Moody?
I'd probably have to say to Mr. Gopian, that probably be on the top of the list next year if you wait that long. You've been through enough as it is, and I guess there's no other direction to go with it, but like I say, put you at the top of the list next year, as soon as possible.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor of the dissolution of RBEG revolving loan fund. All in favor, the motion carries. All right, number 2, discuss parking violation fines and signage.
Okay, as was mentioned last meeting, the road commissioner has been out up and down the main street on the downtown area and posting the 2-hour parking signs. And then he's also been moving his way up Main Street by the junior high, and he's been, I'm assuming it's you, getting some of those dig safe markings around those posts on the
Yeah, that has
sidewalk.
to be done prior to the
Right.
work that needs to be done.
So that brought a lot of questions from a certain Mr. Elias.
So,
Not you, but
Oh, okay. I didn't say anything, what are you talking about?
a close relation to you asking the question
Yeah.
about all those markings in front of his house. So I guess the long and short of it is, now that they're in place, the ordinance has been updated and approved at town meeting. The ordinance simply says that it's the selectmen's discretion to set the fine. So far, I haven't heard from the sheriff's office that anybody has called and made note of a violation. We're hoping that the signs will lead to conformity, but if there's an issue, there needs to be a fine in place. If you had to ask me a recommendation, I would make it simple, a flat $25 fine per violation.
Louis.
Who's gonna enforce it?
In that handout there is the process. And this is a process where it's not gonna be a meter person where they're sticking a red dot on chalk on the tires. If a business owner, like Mr. Agopian, for example, says, hey, these 2 cars have been parked out in front of my store for 2 days now, and nobody's moving. He can contact the sheriff's office, the deputy will go over, and that person that makes the call, they will serve as the witness to sign off on the ticket, and then that deputy will issue a ticket.
Unless, I guess something's changed here. The last of my knowledge was that any town ordinance like this, the deputy has to be sworn as a constable. The constable has the right to enforce those ordinances, but other law enforcement didn't, the last I know, but something's changed.
When I talked with the sheriff, and this was a couple of years ago, I remember giving him a list of all of our town ordinances that he was to instruct his deputies to enforce. So my understanding as part of the policing contract is they enforce town ordinances.
I wish you'd check on that for me, because, like I say, unless something's changed, those deputies have to be sworn in as constables to enforce an ordinance in a town. Just double check.
I can double check.
Thank you.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to set the parking violation fee to $25.
Make that a motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to set the parking violation fee at $25. Any questions, any comments? Mr. Elias?
When I was up to the nursing home, looking after my mother, I heard this banging. And I saw something I never thought I'd see.
Stop right there, George.
I'm not talking about you.
Stop right there.
I'm talking about your partner using a sledgehammer. I almost had to stay in the nursing home. But anyway, those signs say no parking between signs. What do those signs say?
No parking between signs and no parking.
So what happens if a tractor trailer pulls up in front of the nursing home to go to the coffee shop? He's in there 5 minutes and comes out and goes. How do you enforce that? No one's there to make he's not there for a long period of time.
I would leave that up to the sheriff's office, but I would simply say if someone was really concerned about that, they could jot down the plate number and give it to the sheriff.
Like that really gonna happen? Anyway,
I'm just saying, the signage is there to encourage compliance.
The only other thing that I would suggest in those areas like that, and of course we're talking about a little bit more money, is to put yellow diagonal lines in that area. That kind of, you know, when a person comes up and parks on that right there, it's kind of obvious they know they're not there. But that is the only, to me, that's the only alternative that you have if you want to, you know, push on those areas such as that there. Because that is kind of standard, that those lines mean you don't park on top of them. Something to think about.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes, so, see if I get this right, if you park on Main Street from 8 to 8, it's a $25 fine. If you park overnight from October 15th to April 1st, or whenever it is, it's a $75 fine? That's how much it is when they tow your car away.
Well, right, that's the violation in the winter months, is you get a warning, and then your car's towed.
Okay.
Right.
But no signs up for that.
Not yet. There are some behind rains.
You're gonna change out the signs?
Yeah, we're gonna change them every 6 months.
Keep in mind, the signs are a courtesy. The signs are a courtesy because the ordinance is what is there. And, you know, you can try to create a million different signs, but nobody reads them anyways.
No, but the thing is, people don't know the ordinance. They don't know about the $75 fine tow away.
They do when Jeff talks about
Normally what I do, Bob, is if there's a problem in the wintertime, I don't like towing anybody's vehicle. So normally what I do is I leave them a note saying that this is the ordinance, and 99.9% of the time, they're not there the next day. We did have 2 issues last year that there was 4 vehicles towed, and the guy finally caught on. But, you know, to put a sign up at every pole
No,
is, you know.
I just wanted why the big discrepancy was, that's all.
So, yeah, the fine, I don't believe there's
One
any,
is the
there's no
tow.
parking fine, because your car's not gonna be there when the officer gets it, because it's gonna be towed.
Right.
So it's usually $100.
Maybe it's on, I thought it was 75.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the $25 fee for parking violations? All in favor, motion carries.
Before you leave this topic, I just wanted to talk a little bit about where the road commissioner has marked heading up on the north side of Main Street across from the junior high. So you've got the parking around the junior high. We know that is an issue at drop off and pick up for parents. The ordinance and the signage is gonna push people back a little bit from, so they're not right up on the edge of Nickel Street, so they'll back up. But on the other side of the road, right now the ordinance says no parking from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on that side of the road, right across from the junior high. If you ever come into town around that time, you'll see occasionally a car on that side of the road dropping a kid off, and the kid has to run across the street. If they're really good, they'll walk down to the crosswalk, but that's unlikely. So the ordinance says no parking from 6 to 6. And that's, we've kind of held off on putting those signs up just to see what the thought of the board was for that section right there. And again, your question's gonna come back to enforcement. And one of the things that I do like about the deputies is that they do occasionally sit out there, especially during drop-off time in the morning.
You talking about the Skowhegan Savings sign, or both sides?
From the Skowhegan Savings side, not the side that the junior high, it's the south side of the road, not the side that the junior high is on. It's the one where they have to cross traffic after they drop their kids off.
Where the Alliance guy was complaining.
That's correct. Just concern, not complaint. So right now, the ordinance says no parking 6 to 6. If we put signs up there, I will ask that the deputies kind of monitor that.
How far up does it go?
Goes up to 220 Main Street.
Yeah, it goes up from the entrance of the old teller machine,
Yeah.
the exit, up to where Gene Hutchinson used to live, that's where one sign has already been installed.
Then up past North Street.
Yes, probably 75 feet past North Street.
Okay. I just wondered how far up it went.
Well, I guess from what I've been understanding is, the reason a lot of those signs were put up there was years ago, before there was a parking lot built for the junior high, and a lot of, that was the parking for the
Yeah.
the teachers in the
Yeah.
factory at the junior high. Is the reason why a lot of those signs were put up, plus also a lot of the reason was kids running out into traffic.
Yeah.
So,
But if you've got a school board meeting or something like that, that's after 6 PM.
that's after
so
6, correct?
So there's no issue there. If there's an event at the
Right.
Elias Center, it's after 6 PM. Because I know parking, even with the parking lot up there, parking's a premium every time there's an event at the high school or at the junior high. My parking lot's full, so, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I like the idea of having some kind of restriction on there, because that is dangerous. I see, I don't look out my office window in the morning when the kids are coming, because it just gives me a heart attack every day.
So is that really considered parking? If I pull up, let my kid off and take off?
In the ordinance it is, it says stopping of any kind.
Oh,
Do I understand that the south side is the same way, in front of the junior high?
No, it's only 75 feet either side of Nickel Street.
Okay.
And then from Nickel Street heading east, let's say, or south,
Yeah.
there's nothing. And the same way headed west.
So parents, on that side, parents can drop off.
They can, on the outgoing lane, they can.
Yes.
And the other thing with the parking on the corner was so that people can pull out with the buses to look to see if there's any
Right.
traffic.
Yeah. But I was just concerned that going east, on that side of the road, the parents can drop off
Yes.
children there, and they don't cross streets,
Right.
nothing, they get right out. You know, I didn't want to inhibit them, all the parents, from not being able to use any area there at all and drop children off, because a lot of them do. Okay.
I just want to make the board aware.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
So we'll move forward with
All right.
66 cents.
Review municipal budget first quarter.
Well, we're a quarter of a way through the fiscal year budget. The first sheet that's in your packets is your revenue totals. Everything is coming in as expected. That first line there, that's the 2020 budget of $980,000. About $720,000 of that is vehicle registrations. And vehicle registrations are right on track. Actually, after the first quarter, were higher than normal. So we could have another record-setting year of vehicle registrations. You see down there in the middle, your real estate tax, personal property taxes. Those are the taxes where the first payment was due in September, and we're pretty much right on tracks. 49% of taxes have been paid, 60% of personal property, so we're right where we need to be at this time. So revenues are good. The board have any questions on revenues, money taken in?
when do we get Betty money?
Usually December or early January. The next two pages are broken down article by article. Again, if the board wants the line by line, we're glad to provide that to you. But if you, and again, I'll take any questions, but the thing that was brought to my attention on this is we're pretty much where we are expected to be. Some of these run a little higher than 25% because you have big payments towards insurances and that sort of thing. Some of them run less than 25%, such as the highway department's only at 18%, but snow is coming.
And the big bills for the grader haven't come yet.
That's right, and there's big equipment, there's two big equipment, the grader's being worked on, that's to the tune of several $1,000s. Donnie's having a generator on one of the engines being worked on, that's to the tune of several $1,000s. So there are some, we budgeted for it, but there are some big ticket equipment items out there. So I'll, if the board has any questions, I'd like to.
Any questions for the town manager? All right, seeing none, looking for selectmen's concerns. Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Elias?
None.
Savage? Mr. Duchamp?
None for me.
Citizens' concerns. Seeing none, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:19.